Welcome to Building Relationships with Osmani Gonzalez. Guys, I am so excited to have the privilege to go into your life, into your marriage, and into your parenting. Just to learn from you guys, be able to see other couples, how they do it, right? How did they grow their marriage? How did they build a successful marriage, right? We're going to see the polish results, but we want to talk about how it all started. How did you guys, how did you guys meet? How did you guys deal with different parenting issues? How did you guys make your marriage last? That's what we're looking for. So we're so excited to be able to sit with other couples and just listen to the stories and be able to learn from them. I'm gonna be able to learn because I love to look at other couples and be able to see what they did, what when certain situations arose, what did they do? How did they take care of it? Guys, I am so excited and I will see you in the next one. Take care. All right, guys. Well, welcome, guys. Welcome back to another show of Building Relationships with Osmani and Aleida. We're here. We're so excited to be with this couple. Welcome, guys, Andrew and Charity to the program.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Awesome, guys. So we're gonna talk a little bit about what our goals are. One of the reasons that we started this program is we want to be able to encourage other couples to be able to look at marriages and be encouraged by it. Yes, marriage is hard. A lot of couples don't choose marriage. They choose to just get together and kind of, wing it out. And what happens there is there's no commitment. Once you guys get married and you commit to each other, then, you're in it for the long haul. And that's a goal. So we want to show a couple of examples of other couples that have been through different things in life and different situations and be encouraged by it. So we're going to talk a little bit about, we're just going to ask them some questions and just kind of go through, in 15 to 20 minutes, what they've gone through a lifetime of marriage. All right, guys. So here we go. So who are we? We help individuals and corporations build trusting relationships with each other. It's very important that the same thing in a marriage as in a corporation or a company, that you build trust with each other. So that's one of the things that we wanna kind of push out there, building relationships and building trust with each other. Well, what do we do? What do we offer? We help find practical ways to build lasting relationships. When you build trust, relationships last because you have that foundation of trust. Same thing in the corporate world as in marriage. It's very similar when you look at it. Well, what's in it for you? Our team will walk you through proven one-on-one personalized techniques that build trust and strong relationships. So that's something that we want to do. We want to work on building strong relationships with others. Our goal is to encourage, building strong relationships in our marriages and in corporations as well. So that's really what our goals is. I was saying in the beginning, we want to show other couples that, hey, marriage is definitely a must. It's something that to go ahead and choose marriage. That's really our goal. We want to show other couples successes. All right. So guys, I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions. Sorry about that. Okay, so guys, how did you meet?
Well, we met at church, and it was through just my wife coming to visit the church that I attended with my family. Our parents, both of our dads are pastors
Wow.
were at the time, and so my dad wasn't pastoring the church that we were at the time. Her dad was pastoring, but she was looking for a group of other like-minded young people, that college and career age. And
Right.
so she came over to our church, and we met, and didn't necessarily hit it off right away, but just kind of gradually became friends over time. So
Nice.
you know,
Nice. So how long have you guys been married?
It will be 20 years in June.
What? Hey, we're right there.
Yeah.
In July, we make 20 years.
oh,
Oh,
really?
yeah.
Very
Yes.
cool. We're only
Yes.
a month apart then. Yeah.
We're right there. Oh my goodness. That is awesome. I love it. 20 fun years, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. So do you guys remember who introduced you guys?
Do you remember?
Well, so when I went to that church, he noticed me. I had worked at summer camp with his sister the year before.
Okay.
And so I kind of talked to him through his sister being there. So,
Okay,
I
okay, okay.
remember that she specifically was invited over to the pastor's house that evening that she came the first time, and I was invited as well. So I didn't actually notice her sitting in church as much, even though I did recognize there was a new girl there. But I definitely noticed when she was at the house, and that's when we first really talked to each
Nice,
other and started getting to know
nice.
each other.
Nice, nice, nice. So what I love asking this question is, when you guys were younger, right? Do you guys remember someone or a couple that you guys said, "Hey, I would love to have, a marriage like them," and the reason I say this because I've gotten this answer now is someone that you have seen that I definitely don't want the marriage like this is what I don't want. Well, I've had a couple of couples actually point out couples that they did not have mentors in their life. So anybody that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think for probably both of us, we would say that, first and foremost, we were raised by loving Christian parents who did display for us a good example of marriage. And I
Okay.
know, personally, I would say that my parents were some of the greatest examples of what it looks like to have a
Nice.
godly marriage. They went through a lot of hard times and some very difficult things that they worked through. And so, seeing them stay faithful and committed to one another in marriage,
Okay.
despite the ups and downs, was something that I'll never forget, and
Okay.
has definitely played a role in helping us in our view of marriage.
How about you, Charity? That's awesome. So you did have that opportunity to have that at home, which is great, How about you, Charity? Anybody that you can point out?
um, I love my parents. There was things, of course, that, my mom maybe did that I would say I'm never going to do that in a marriage. But for sure, my grandparents, my dad's parents, they just, you could just truly tell that they loved each other the 50 some years that they were married. And um, I just, like I was super close to them even growing up and watching them.
I love that. I love that. The reason I put that question in there is my dad's aunt, right? There were a couple, they were in their 70s when I was 13, 14, and I loved to look at them because they were always holding hands. And it
Yeah.
just seemed like to me, the cutest thing in the world, and I always said to myself, that is what I want.
Hmm.
When I did meet my wife, one of the things that I noticed in her, in her parents is they did everything together. They did everything together, and I didn't have that in my house. My parents are still together, but they live together because they live together. But there's not that love and that that affection. I never saw affection from them towards each other. You
Hmm.
know, and so I didn't see that in my house. But when I saw my aunt, that's what attracted me. So that's why I love putting that answer there, because it kind of makes you look back and say, wow, and now you look at your marriage and you can say, okay, look, I'm doing what they were doing, or
Yeah.
you can see, some similarities. So that's awesome. I love that. I love that. Um, do you remember any events, in your marriage that maybe when you guys are having dinner, you talk about it and you go, hey, remember that? And it really kind of brings back some smiles. Uh, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we talk about regularly that we remember as memories. One of them, how we got engaged, was something we
Yeah.
were just talking about this past week with our kids, and how we need to pull out the video and show them,
Yes.
because it was a neat experience. I got to propose to her at a rodeo and bring her down in front of everybody, and it was just a fun,
Really?
humorous, and enjoyable experience that is important, I think, for our kids to know about and to even see, because we have it recorded and we haven't pulled that out in a while. But one of the things that we were talking about, as far as important life events or things that stands out, especially currently,
Mm.
is the Lord has answered a prayer for us that we've prayed for many, many years. And we've talked about this, we've prayed about this, we've asked the Lord to help us to be ready when He's ready. for us to enter this certain phase of life, and that was to foster children. And
Wow.
so, thankfully, just a couple of months ago, the Lord answered that prayer for us, and we were able to bring 2 foster kids into our home, and they're siblings, and it's just exciting to be able to see them thriving, in our home. And there's definitely challenges that come with it, and we knew that going into it, but we've definitely seen the benefits and the blessings of it as well. So that's really something probably currently that stands out the most, as an answer to prayer and a memory that we'll cherish for the rest of our lives.
Wow, that is awesome. That's awesome. We've had the opportunity to be in the world of fostering and adoption for a while. When we first got married, we went to a place called His House Children's Home. Actually, we went to a concert, a Christian concert, and we saw the owner talking about it. And my wife wasn't working at the moment. She started working part-time. And then they asked her if we would be, she wouldn't mind being house parents. And when she called me and she told me that idea, I really started crying because I didn't think that I was. I just thought it was something that that doesn't happen to you. I don't know. I just looked at it at that moment because I was like, no way,
Right.
we can't do that. But obviously we did, and the blessings. We still open up our book every once in a while and look at pictures, and we keep in touch with them. And this is close to 20 years ago.
Wow.
That we did that. So do you guys have kids, and what age are they?
Yes, we have 4.
Okay.
And 18, 16, 13, and then the 2 10-year-olds
Oh my
and
goodness.
an 8-year-old with the 2 foster kids in there. So
Okay. Wow, that's a full house.
yeah, 6 total now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so how do your biological kids with the foster kids, they get along great, or how does that work?
At first, it was a little bit of a challenge. We have 3 boys and 1 daughter, so it was an adjustment for her. She's our 16-year-old,
Wow.
having to rearrange her room and share.
Yeah.
But she's done exceptionally well, and with them being, close in age with our younger 2, they just good playmates and get
That's
along
awesome.
well.
It's
I
a
think that
blessing.
Yeah. I think our kids have had to learn that, fostering is a family effort.
Yeah.
And, it's not just something that mom and I are doing. It's
That's
something
right.
that we're investing into these kids as a family. And so it's brought camaraderie, I think, to our home with our own children, to realize that they're just as much a part of the success in these kids' lives as we are. And so it's definitely, I feel like, given us a increased team spirit
Yeah.
as a family, because we have additional goals that we're working towards together in these
Wow.
2 kids' lives. So there's been a lot of positives that have come out of it, despite the challenges that naturally come with bringing
Exactly.
kids in your home who come from a different background and different rules and
Yes.
different expectations. So, but we knew going into it that was a part of what that process looks like.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's so awesome, to be able to, as you say, as you get different cultures or different lifestyles, or let's say sometimes they bring baggage because where they've been, and then to be able to just, learn together to be able to, flourish. I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. My sister had a stillborn at 9 months. So, she went through the grieving process, and about 3 years into that, she decided to foster and then finally adopt. So she has two adopted children, and that's our nephews and our niece. They're awesome. So
Very neat. Very neat.
that is really awesome. In terms of raising children, so you guys have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 children. So can you give us some ideas on how you discipline them? Does it work to discipline all the kids the same way, or how did you guys deal with the different personalities? Can you kind of talk a little bit about parenting?
Yeah, I think that we found with the 4 different kids we have prior to fostering that we found there were different ways that worked with different kids. Primarily, I think a lot of it had to do with age. So in the younger years, there was a lot more consistency of how we discipline them all the same. And sometimes, whether that was a swat or taking something away or things like that. But, as they got older, I think that those discipline measures kind of got different because their personalities were different. Their the way they respond was different. So we had some kids who, especially our teenagers, who respond a little bit more towards having those privileges taken away. We have one son, our oldest, who absolutely despises having to do the dishes. And so, to him, you could punish him to have to do the dishes for something, and that would be worse than anything that you could possibly have him do or take away from him. And so, with other kids, that wouldn't affect them much. They would say, oh, it's just my turn to do the dishes, and just do it like the chore that it is. But, with my daughter, her and one of our sons are very, very sensitive when I speak to them harshly or, am firm with them. And so sometimes that's necessary, but at the same time, I have to balance who I'm speaking with as to what they can handle when it comes to, correction and discipline. But ultimately, I think regardless of the different strategies we might use with different kids, I think the things that matter most would be consistency. That parents are consistent in what they expect of their kids. So there's clear expectations and there's consistent enforcement of those expectations. So where the kids know what the clear consequences are if I fail to meet those expectations that mom and dad have set or rules that they have laid down. And then I think also just mom and dad being on the same page about those things. One of the things we've had to learn is, we need to get on the same page when it comes to how we discipline the kids so that they are able to benefit the most from that discipline. Because if they can pin mom against dad or dad against mom, then it's very, very difficult to be consistent in discipline, and it makes mom and dad the enemy instead of the team. The goal is that mom and dad are always the team. So getting on the same page with each other about what is and isn't acceptable forms of discipline and what does and doesn't work with each individual kid, I think that is the catalyst for success in discipline. So consistency and just being on the same page.
Exactly. So are they being homeschooled or are they going to school, regular school, or how are you guys doing that?
So our oldest is in college. This was his first semester. And then our other three are homeschooled now. And then the two foster children go to public school for right now, because that's just, but with COVID, they do half school in school and half at home. So
COVID is a whole another animal.
Changed a lot of things.
Has changed everything. What do you guys think about, and I heard this statement one time and it always stuck to me is, as children, you see your parents have an argument, right? Or dispute or whatever you want to call it. They go into the room, 10, 15 minutes later, they come back out and everything's fine. It's so and then you're wondering as a child, what did they do? How did that work? And that always stayed in my mind, not necessarily argue in front of the kids, but show them how a dispute is taken care of, and to me, it's a lot easier to go to the room, it's a lot easier, but we do need to show them that there's a process to taking a problem and, talking about it, coming to an agreement, not always 100%, but coming to an agreement and then being able to take care of the issue. And I think our kids need to see that somehow. Do you guys, how do you guys work that to be able to teach them?
Well, I think that conflict resolution is one of the key things that families are for, for the rest of kids' lives, is they need to learn how to resolve conflict. And that comes through how you deal with them with sibling relationships, but it also comes primarily through how they see mom and dad work through conflict. I used to think, years ago that the best thing was that the kids never saw us fight or argue or have disagreements. And, I would say, we should never, ever fight in front of the kids or disagree in front of the kids. If we need to work through something, then let's do it behind closed doors. And I think
Exactly. Right.
there's a good time for that, and sometimes that's necessary, that we
Yes.
don't just duke it out in front of our
Of
kids.
course. Of course.
But at the same time, I think there has to be a balance there. And that balance is that it's healthy for our kids to see mom and dad work through disagreements without having to, fight each other
Exactly.
and lose their cool, or, be verbally downgrading to the other person.
Exactly.
There's a right way to do it. And our kids need to see their parents doing it the right way.
Yes.
And that is talking through things. I mean, it's kind of like what we expect our kids to do, right? We say, hey, you guys need to talk through this and work it out.
Right. But we got to teach them. So
But we got
I
to,
thought
they
that
got to see an
statement.
example.
Yeah, I thought that statement it really stayed with me, because it's exactly what you're saying. Like I said, it's easier for me to go to the room because they don't need to see what I say or if I mess up, and but in reality, we're not teaching them. So
Right.
that really stayed with me, and it's something that as young couples, as you guys get together and you have children. Well, these are some of the things that we have gone through the years. And as you notice, Andrew said, is in the beginning, he would go into the room, but as you we all learn, right? And you realize, okay, wait a minute, we got to kind of teach our kids, hey, this is kind of a way that to we don't have to agree on everything. My wife and I don't agree on everything, on all our decisions, but we do have to come to an agreement on, okay, am I gonna let my daughter that's 13 years old go to the movies by herself? Right? But my wife comes and says, but honey, all right, why don't we go with them to the movies and let's go watch another, and give her a little bit of chance so she can grow, and then I'll, okay. Right? So those are all right. Those are all things. So my son right now is 15. Last year, we told him that he can have a girlfriend in high school, and it's been a challenge. Because, it really has. He took it on really quickly. And the daughter, our daughter's like, can I have a boyfriend when we get to high school? Nope. And obviously that's not fair. So, but those are real life scenarios that we're working with and trying to teach them as they make those decisions, to do things right. So,
and I think that it doesn't just provide our kids with a great example to follow. I think it provides us as parents with accountability when we have to work through those things with our kids present, because not only are they benefiting from seeing us work through it, it's holding us accountable that we're doing it right to show them.
exactly.
And of course, sometimes parents blow it and they don't do it right, but doing it in front of your kids shows them that, yes, it's okay to disagree, but it's also, there's a right way to work through those disagreements. And it holds you accountable that you're not just letting it all out and doing something that you regret, because those little eyes are watching. And so they are learning from you. And sometimes behind closed doors, especially if a parent has, anger struggles, or, it can be easy to just do things that you would regret because you don't have that accountability of your kids, those little eyes that are watching you.
That's right. That I love that. I love that idea. So can you guys think back at a situation or problem or that you guys maybe went through as a couple, that you can talk about that you can explain and maybe we can learn from?
Sure. I'll let my wife tell about that.
Yeah, so 5 weeks before we got married, my dad was tragically killed in a horseback riding accident.
Wow.
So he was going to marry us.
Oh, wow.
And so that really, for him to have been killed and then 5 weeks later we got married and then moved 14 hours away from our family. Sorry.
Yeah. It was difficult.
Death is just really a hard thing. but I can say that, one of the best things for us was moving away. I'm thankful that God had that in place before, knowing this was going to happen, because it really made me rely on him, because we're 14 hours away from both of our families.
Right.
Um, but it really tore my immediate family apart, sadly.
Right.
So yeah, definitely, one of the hardest things in marriage. But then God blessed us 1 year later with our son,
Wow.
who we named him after my dad. And truly, he is, so much like my dad in so many ways, that I feel like the Lord gave a piece of him back to me in
Wow.
that way. And, it's just,
That's awesome.
God has a way of patching up those holes and making it a little bit easier.
Yes, yes. Andrew, so how would you say that you helped her during that process, of grieving and being able to, how would you say, from your point of view, what were you able to do to maybe help in some of those areas?
I remember those early years, and they were hard because of everything that had happened with us just moving away from family and friends and home. But I do remember that I had to learn to just be there for her, to let her grieve and to let that process take place, because I wasn't grieving like she was grieving.
Mm-hmm.
And so at times that affected, how our relationship played out in those early years. And, it was a growing experience for both of us and for me, because she did rely heavily on me, and I had to just be willing to listen. There was a lot of processing for her to have to go through. And that just meant a lot of talking and a lot of crying, and just being there. I mean, that was my role. And it still is as her husband, is just to be there for her, to meet her needs. And I think it took it to a whole new level in that first year of marriage, of just having to be there and provide for her the emotional support, that, when we got married or right before her dad died, I didn't expect it to be that way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
a willingness to, I think, accept what was not expected and go with the flow of what her needs were, because her needs changed
Okay.
in that first year or two of marriage from what, I would have expected they were.
Okay. So you kind of answered the question, but I was going to ask the questions. What would you recommend, a younger couple, Charity, going through something like that? What do you recommend to a younger couple? What are some things that you would recommend, especially that first year? Because most of the time, the first year is a little bit difficult, because you're really getting to know each other, and you're starting to live with someone, and it, it's not normal to living with your parents and then suddenly living with someone and doing everything. What do you recommend?
Leaving and cleaving, I really truly believe that is, one of the best tips we were given. The man who married us, said that in our wedding.
Wow.
So like I said, moving away was one of the best things, because I didn't have my mom there
Right.
to, come and coddle me like I would if she was right, in the same town as me. And so therefore it really made me, learn to love Andrew in a whole different way.
Yes.
So just, leaving, and cleaving to each other.
Exactly.
I think one of the things that many young couples struggle with in that first year of marriage is, in failing to leave and cleave, it's easy to revert back to our parents, to rely on them for things that we should be relying on our spouse for. Sometimes, it's not wrong to refer to our parents for advice and counsel,
Exactly.
but when you have issues in your marriage, because you will have issues in those first few years of marriage, it's very tempting to just call mom or call dad and to hash out all those issues with them, when in reality, you need to be working through those things with your spouse. You need to be talking to them and praying with them and confiding in them, rather than confiding in your parents,
That's right. That's right.
because
That's
that's
right.
a part of the leaving and cleaving. And
Exactly.
sometimes it can cause a lot of issues for young couples when, a wife calls mom to talk about all of the problems in their marriage, or a husband calls dad or mom and, shares all the issues. and it gives a bad perception from the parents' viewpoint
Exactly.
of the other spouse, and it causes division in that marriage relationship that wasn't intended, but
Exactly.
is the natural result of not leaving and cleaving, like the Bible
Exactly.
says.
Exactly. You know, this is my experience, right? In the Latin culture, you know, moms tend to hold their kids to their, you know, in their 30s, you know, most of them. And what I've noticed in the Anglo-Saxon culture and the American culture, you know, by 18, hey, you know, go, you need to move out. And you know, and then you look at it and you say, you know, what's right or what's wrong. I think there's a balance, but I really think, you know, I left, I think at 20, I left to go to the Air Force. That's a whole nother story. And then I came back, and I think 2 years later got married, you know, and rented a small little apartment, but that was our own little apartment, you know, it was ours. And from there, we've most of the time lived together, you know. Then now 20 years have passed by, and now we've moved back in with our parents to really kind of help each other out for different situations. But yeah, I think that is so awesome. You have to leave, and you have to be able to, you know, stick to your husband and your spot and your wife together, and that's how you grow, and that's how you learn. So I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so guys, I'm gonna ask you. I think you did see the questions. You weren't supposed to see those questions, but there were some extra questions that I had put it there. Did you look at them?
I saw them, but we didn't go through and answer them.
Good. You
so,
weren't
so
supposed
I
to
don't know
see
if we're
those.
prepared for them or not.
You weren't supposed to see those also.
Okay.
So these are some questions. So I put, so for example, the husband, I can put it on the screen, or you guys have it there, but so the whole idea is just to see, you know, how much conversation you guys talk with each other, and if you can remember certain things. Okay.
Sure.
So for Andrew, right? What was my favorite TV show? And really what I meant, I want you to ask him, but you don't have it on the screen now, unless you want me to put it up there. Let me see if I can put it up there.
That's fine.
Okay.
So she's asking me this question.
Yeah. So what was my favorite TV show as a child? So do you remember Andrew's TV show as a child, or did he talk about it, or see if she gets it right?
The Andy Griffith Show.
I like it.
Yeah, we were raised on the Andy Griffith Show growing up, so watched every episode. And what's fun is now our kids have watched every single episode in recent years, and they've really enjoyed it. They've watched it multiple times, I think.
Yeah.
Andrew, what a difference in oh my goodness. There's no comparison in terms of the ethics in those shows.
Right.
You know, and the family values, and I mean, just there's no comparison. I've gone back and I've watched them because I really like them. Okay, so Charity. So this is for Charity, right? So what was my most memorable birthday party from when I was a child? See if you remember.
You get to answer this one for me.
Oh.
What was my most memorable birthday party? Remember anything?
Maybe.
Your surprise one at our house.
Yeah.
18th was it?
I think so. They had a surprise birthday party for my 18th birthday. It was at her house, and it was the first time that we
hit it off.
really hit it off. You can tell them that story.
No.
Okay. And why? Yeah. Well, and the other question. So, and why? So, why was it a memorable party?
So, we played volleyball. We had a trampoline, but then at the end of the night, we were standing out there talking, and crazy me found a frog. And so I picked it up and pretended to kiss it and dropped it, and he was standing there. So I was like, oh, my Prince Charming. So kind of when he thought, I might like her.
I love it. So yeah, the whole idea is here is just to go kind of remember things back, you know, in the back, okay, so wife. So who introduced us? Who introduced you? You can remember who introduced you guys?
I would say that it was the pastor's son. He ended up being our best man at our wedding. His name was Claude, and it was his house that we went over.
So is that right, Charity?
So.
Did you get it right? All
Yeah.
Okay. So husband, what was my dream vacation and why?
To go on a cruise together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. All right. So when's
We
the
may
next
do that
cruise?
this year for our 20th
This
anniversary.
year?
So
There you go. There you go. There you go. Okay. The reason I put this on here is because I always get it wrong. So that's why I put it in here. All right. So
Uh-oh.
in what drawer, in what drawer is the lingerie or the underwear is located?
Well, the
So
underwear is
see,
in the top drawer of her dresser, and the lingerie is in a little box basket underneath her hanging clothes in the closet.
did he get it right?
Ding, ding, ding.
Ah, my wife is always, hey honey, can you get me this? I'm like, where is it? All right, guys. So, well, that's it for today. I'm so excited, to be able to sit with you guys. There's so much more content that I would love to have another session with you guys and maybe talk about some other things in specific. This was really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you. Really appreciate you giving me the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us on, and we appreciate what you're doing. Keep it up.
Awesome. All right, guys.
See ya.
Thank you for watching Building Relationships with Osmani Gonzalez. We had an opportunity today really to open up the doors into their marriage and be able to look at details that will help me and you guys as well. We're able to look into their marriage, look at their victories, look at their flaws, and see how they overcame them. So that's our goal with building relationships. We want to be able to go into your home and be able to give you advice, practical advice that you guys can really take in and be able to apply it into your marriage. Guys, next session, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be talking with another couple, and we're going to be able to see how they've done it. Thank you for watching, guys. We'll see you next session.